Graham Podcast.
Brought to you with Honda Motorcycles.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Leona Graham Podcast, sponsored by Honda Motorcycles. Ride it, buy it, win it. Test ride and purchase one of these models to be in with a chance of winning. A CB500F, a CBR 500R, a CB6 CBR 650R, or an NX 500. You can win the price of your bike back. Find out more. Visit honda.co.uk/motorcycles. The competition runs until the end of December and terms and conditions apply. Coming up on today's episode, I'm joined by McClure of Reverend and the Makers, who'll be telling me what it was like living with Arctic Monkeys frontman Alex Turner and how the Gallagher brothers broke up a fight between John and his own brother. I'll be sharing details of today's competition and the Thin Lizzy bundle the winner will be getting their hands on. And I'll be joined by the lovely Anna Geary, who'll be giving me an education in something I never thought I needed help with: drinking. So, Christmas is almost here, but we mustn't forget a very important birthday first. Ozzy Osbourne, his birthday was the 3rd of December. He turned 76. Happy birthday, Ozzy. As for his views on Christmas, well, he's not really a fan, and I'll quote what he said 2 years ago: "F*** Christmas, I hate it." And that's going to make a beautiful segue into the next section, which is about a Christmas charity single. Late night phone call by Reverend and the Makers. I'll be asking McClure of the band about that, amongst other things, now.
A-side.
Welcome to the podcast, John, from Reverend and the Makers. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks for having me.
So, on the A-side, before your career in music, you were a poet.
I was, yeah.
What made you want to write poetry?
I worked at a place called the Boardwalk, or the Mucky Duck, to be more specific to Sheffielders. And this is a legendary music venue that once had the Clash and the Pistols play at the same time. One of the rare occasions they played the same gig, right? And it's a really old classic venue. I worked on the bar, and we used to get people like John Cooper Clarke and such like coming through. And I saw Cooper Clarke when I was a kid working on the bar, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Why did you make the change from poetry to music?
Probably better way to impress girls, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a bit of that, I think. Like, you know, when you're doing poetry and everyone's like, oh, great, man, cool. You know what I mean? But, like, the moment you start singing it, we're like a rock and roll band or whatever, like, suddenly girls are interested, and I think there's probably a little subconscious part of my brain that were like, you'll fancy me if I sing it, won't you?
That's a great motivation. And how did Reverend and the Makers originally come together back in 2002?
Well, we'd had a band called Jude and Suki, which were me and our guitarist, and Laura, who's subsequently become my wife but wasn't at the time. Essentially, it was like us and Arctic Monkeys all in one band, and then that split up. I wanted to be the gaffer, right? So I set up my own little thing called Reverend, and then I never had a band. It was just a studio project. And subsequently, when I needed a band to play it, me and our old drummer really off us nut one night, and we were watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and there's a bit when Gene Wilder says, we're the music makers, we're the dreamers of dreams. And I thought, oh yeah, the Makers. It seemed like a good... I also like Bob and the Wailers, Sly and the Family Stone.
Okay.
Freddie and the Dreamers. I like them kind of names.
So where did Reverend come from?
Because the old bass player of Arctic Monkeys is a lad called Andy Nicholson. He said, you're always telling people how it is, aren't you? Always preaching to people. He was saying this in a sort of slightly disparaging way. But you're just doing my head anyway. You're like a Reverend. And then he just, oh, he's here, the Reverend. And it just stuck. And everybody started calling me the Rev.
So you mentioned the Arctic Monkeys there. Now, they released their debut album in 2005. Is it true you got approached by a lot of big record labels, but you turned them all down? What's the story behind that?
So they wanted Arctic Monkeys Mark II, right? Because I were involved in Arctic Monkeys. I've wrote songs with Arctic Monkeys. They've wrote songs with me. And they wanted me to do a Monkeys-style album. And that weren't really where I wanted to be. I was somewhere in between Pulp and the Human League. There was Simps in our music. And I wanted to do that. They offered me £1 million. I said no. I'm not going to lie. Now I'm older, I think, whoa, £1 million would have been nice, wouldn't it?
Do you regret that decision?
A little bit, yeah. And they asked me to be on the front cover, right? And I was of the first record, and I'm thinking, why am I going to be on front cover of your record, then release my own record a few weeks later?
Yeah.
So my brother will do it. So the guy with the cigarette, it's my brother Chris.
Wow, do you regret that a bit as well?
No, I'm glad about that. But no, I don't regret anything, really. I think it's all part of life's tapestry, and I'm still here, I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it on my own terms. I've always done it on my own terms. Made some weird records, made some political records, made some pop records. I've always just done what I wanted, and I kind of think there's something to be said for that. Yes,
because you're quite sort of don't fit into any one genre, do you?
No, I switch around a lot. So I mean, first album's, like I said, a cross between maybe Sheffield Indie and Sheffield Electro. Then I've been on this soul trip for the last album. And this single I've got out at the minute sounds like Elvis in Vegas, so I've been all over the place, yeah.
So who are your influences then? Because it's so varied.
When I very first started being into guitar music, it was Britpop, right?
Yeah.
But then I got into, around the first album, I'm into Cooper Clarke, Gang of Four, Ian Dury and the Blockheads. Currently, I'm channeling my mum and dad's record collection, so I'm talking now about Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield. I move, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been on loads of mad journeys in Africa and all with Damon Albarn. I've been in Nigeria before. Like, I've got ADHD, right? So I get hyperfocus. I'm like, for 6 months, I'm going to get obsessed with Nigerian music. That's the vibe, really.
So we sort of reap the benefit of that. Now, you've got this new charity single called Late Night Phone Call.
Mm-hmm.
What's that all about?
So it doesn't mention Christmas and it hasn't got a chorus, but during writing it, me and my mate Danny were like, is this a Christmas song? He's like, it is, isn't it? And I had this whole concept for the video, end to end. I've never really directed or storyboarded a video before. Closed off a terrace street in London. Got my friend Jonathan Buttrell to exec produce, who did Everybody's Talking About Jamie musical, and he brought Shivin, who does Hamilton. And they've done this mad Busby Berkby dance thing in street. And it's just gone nuts, like the whole reaction online. I don't want to say it's gone viral, but that kind of thing.
So let me get this straight. It doesn't mention Christmas. It didn't start out as a Christmas song.
Yeah.
But now it is.
Just when you hear it and you see the video, you're like, oh yeah, this is Christmas. It just feels like Christmas. I don't know how else to say it, really. And then the Samaritans side of it, I've lost my uncle, my auntie, my cousin, my dad's best mate, one of my mum's mates, a load of mates of mine to suicide, right? Christmas is great. Don't have a good time by all means, but there's a lot of people, they're struggling, they're on their own. Samaritans, they're here 365 days a year, 24/7, pick up phone, you don't need to be alone. And I just kind of wanted to do something for them people, because I lost my dad earlier on this year. It's going to be a bit of a weird time for me, and I've got people around me. So if I didn't have people around me, where would I be? You know what I mean? And I think Samaritans, big up them, they're great people, and I think they're saving people's lives, actually.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you.
Important.
What a brilliant charity to choose at Christmas time,
That's
especially.
Yeah.
B-side.
Some people might not know this, but you were once in a band and shared a flat with Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys. How did you actually meet?
I met him on a bus. I needed a guitarist for my first band, Jude and Suki. I met him, he's a few years younger than me, and we like, you know, when you just see people, you recognise, I call it the light. Some people have a light, right? Like, we in about the space of 2 years of knowing him, he was like a megastar. But for a minute he played with us. We had a flat, my mum and his mum and Elders, their drummer, they've got this little band called Mother Superior, where Alex's mum changes lyrics to like our songs and Monkey's songs, and they all get together and have a good drink and sing them. But he's great. I mean, he's gone on and smashed it, you know. And it's nice with them lads, because sort of Elders' drummer were on Instagram the other day, and he's saying there'd been no Arctic Monkeys without John, and he's his big brother. And to hear them things is nice, right? And I guess to some degree, I've always been like a rapper's rapper. I'm like the friend of people who go on and become megastars rather than being one myself. But I think there's some joy in being that guy and all, because it's like you've kept your own vibe and you've...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got your own integrity.
Equally, like, I won't mind being a few million quid behind him, like, you know what I mean? But
Did you think that he would be that successful?
knew it the day I met him. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I've been like lucky enough to know a few people who've gone on to that level of success when they were starting up. And he's a genius. He's a great songwriter, and there is something in water in Sheffield. You know, there's like Richard Hawley there, and Bring Me the Horizon, and
What
Self-Esteem.
is it about Sheffield that's got this musical culture then?
Two things. So, firstly, there's an availability of old industrial land to make a noise that's not been gentrified in the way that Manchester and London have. The other thing is we don't trade on old glory. I kind of think we're just getting on doing it. We're not sort of like going on about how good we are. There's a forward momentum. There's like a understatement to it. We're just doing it, like.
Yeah, just getting on with it. You've supported and played with some huge bands and artists. Who's been your favourite to perform with and why?
Who have we played with? Chili Peppers were good, not because I'm a big fan, but just because I saw Flea have a bass lesson once. And that taught me a lesson, because I thought, you know, he's got to be a student, or he's got to learn. So I'm still having guitar lessons, that were good. Oasis were good, because when I was a kid, I loved them. So to play with them at Wembley Stadium were a vibe.
What do you think about Oasis and the ticket pricing issues?
On a very simple level, I think Oasis reforming will make lots of people very happy. And like, Liam retweeted me over there, and I would consider Noel a bit of a pal, so I'm pleased. I say what I am pleased about. I am one of two brothers, and we had a terrible scrap, me and my brother, in Noel's dressing room at Wembley, that Noel had to separate us. right?
No way.
Which is partly, I guess, why we've become mates. And what I am pleased about is, on some level, they've managed to put that back together. And I always think about the man. I think, must make the man happy, that. So
Yeah.
I'm made up for him. I think it's great.
What's the craziest story or request for when you've done private gigs for your fans?
Like, normally, my thing is, like, I don't want no money for it. I'm just going to turn up at your house and you're going to fill your house full of people. Because my thing is, like, if you can create these little moments, you have love in people's hearts forever. So my other thing is I take people off stage, take all crowded street, right? So one time I were in Whitehaven and there was a terraced house and they'd filled 300 people in his house. Somebody's fell through a window, police turned up. But weirdest one, I got to Cardiff once and this kid said, I'll meet you in pub, then we'll walk round to my house. So me and my mate meet him in pub. Gets me a drink, I'm like, cool, should we go to the house? He's like, yeah. I'm like, everybody waiting at this house, aren't they? He's like, oh, no, there's nobody waiting. I'm like, what do you mean? You're like, I just want to spend some time with you. And I'm like, this is weird. I don't like this. I got like serious kind of, like Misery when she's got that pig.
Oh my God.
I got that kind of energy off him. So I'm like, I'm saying to my mate, listen, there's like Coronation Street, them yards.
Yeah.
They were like a yard at back at pub. Me and my mate shinned it off at wall and ran off. I
Did you?
couldn't have it. It was just too weird, man. Yeah, it was just a weird setup. Didn't like it.
It's a bit risky though. What you setting yourself up for things like that? I
When
suppose.
I'm 6'6", I got a goal tooth. I'm a big boy, right? But
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you just get a weird energy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like this.
You've done the right
I need to
thing.
leave.
Bonus tracks.
First poem you remember liking?
TWA. The last letter's the first, same as the first letter, by John Cooper Clarke.
Okay.
What kind of creature bore you? Was it some kind of bat? They can't find a good word for you, but I can.
That is fantastic. First music gig you played?
First music gig I played, where we used to do like illegal gigs and just let people know on internet, on MySpace as it were at the time. So we'd done a gig underneath the job centre in Sheffield, and we just invited a load of people down and trimmed it up with like fairy lights, and it were about as big as that toilet cubicle in there.
Under the job centre.
Under the
That's
job centre,
ironic.
yeah.
First song you loved or hated?
First song I ever remember loving were Uptown Girl by Billy Joel when I was a little boy. I loved it.
Your first celebrity crush?
Jet from Gladiators.
Okay,
But I tell you
wow.
what, I tell you what
Wasn't
did.
expecting that.
I tell you what I do love. My wife's a little bit similar to her. I've got a bit of a thing about posh girls, right? And my wife's a little bit posh. Remember Sherry Lungy on Coffee advert?
Yes, I do.
Hello, darling. Have you got a cup of sugar? Oh, I can't handle that. Something about like calm, posh brunettes that just winds me up. I can't handle it.
First time you got into trouble?
I scratched a load of band names on like a pub table, right? Me and my mate Abbott did it, and landlord rang up my mum and like, you need to come down and apologise for this, like. So yeah, we got barred.
Was that more scary than them calling the police? Because I'd be more scared of my mum finding out.
I was terrified of my mum and dad.
Yeah, same.
Like they were like old school parents, right?
Yeah.
Like they'd kick off, and I was like, we had to go down and apologise to this bloke. It were horrendous, awful.
Quick fire questions. Favourite current artist or band?
I really like Liam Bailey. He's got an album called Zero Grace. He's been on tour with Paul Weller, but the album is wonderful.
What's your go-to drinks order?
Go-to drinks orders, Guinness. I do like an Appleton Estate Jamaican rum with Coke.
Nice. Best UK music festival?
Rock and Roll Circus.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think for the price, for what you get,
That's what I thought.
I genuinely think it's...
And I brought my son last year, and it's
Yeah.
got the real family feel because it's got the circus performers as well.
We brought our little boys to watch Richard Hawley and Milburn, and we had a great time. Like 55 quid to watch all them bands and have that day out. And you're not going to get muddy. Boom.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it. Most underrated song of all time?
Doris Troy, what you gonna do about it?
Favourite Reverend and the Makers album or song?
Late Night Phone Call, the new one, and I mean that genuinely.
Really?
It's like my favouriteest thing I've ever done. It's like the most flamboyant thing I've ever done.
Now, on this podcast, we always get our guests to do a dramatic reading of one of their songs.
Okay.
This is the Christmas edition, so your hit, Heatwave in the Cold North. Imagine it's been reimagined as a children's Christmas story.
Okay.
So I want you to do it in the style of your best story time, bedtime reading.
Okay. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. There's a heat wave in the cold north. Santa's slayed it. Now he's chilling with his pal, Roo. Give me a kiss under the miz. Let me assist your Christmas wish. A cranberry turkey glaze. And in my bliss, always I wish it could be Christmas Day, yeah? There's a heat wave in the cold north. Santa's slayed it. Now he's snoring. And so is Roo, yeah? There's a heat wave in the cold north. We've got snowfall, but I'm indoors. And I sing Yule, yeah? I want to eat day and night. Mince pies. Mince pies. And I'm a sucker for new stuff. Give me more. Ripping off the sellotape. I just want to be playing Monopoly till I'm red in the face. 8 o'clock's as far as I'm going to get. Is the EastEnders special not over yet? It's a pity the whole day goes by in such great big haste. There's a heat wave in the cold north. Santa's gone now, but he'll come back when it's time to, yeah? I felt like Sean Bean doing there.
That was brilliant.
Get yourself an O2 bolt on.
Yeah, voiceover's next career.
Yeah.
Well, John from Reverend and the Makers, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
The Leona Graham Podcast.
Brought to you with Honda Motorcycles. Ride it, buy it, win it.
Okay, competition time. Win a copy of the new Thin Lizzy vinyl, The Acoustic Sessions, which is several classic Thin Lizzy tracks remixed with new guitar work from original guitarist Eric Bell. One of the first copies could be yours because it's not out until January, along with a special edition Blu-ray featuring brand new visualizer videos for all tracks, along with a signed Polaroid picture of Eric Bell during the recordings himself. Just answer this multiple choice question. Which comic book did Thin Lizzy get their name from? The Beano, Dandy or Beezer? Message me on my socials at Leona Graham DJ with your answer and your email address. Get your entry in by midnight on the 15th of December and the winner will be notified by midnight on the 16th of December 2024. And Thin Lizzy The Acoustic Sessions is out on January the 24th next year and the new version of Whiskey in the Jar is available to stream now. P.S. In a separate side note, you can get a Beano offer right now if you go to beanoshop.com/Leona. This week, I got Anna onto the subject of drinking, which I thought would be right up my street, but then she somehow managed to wangle the chat onto musicals. Unbelievable. Hi, Anna.
Hello, Leona.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. What have you got for me today?
So, how do you feel about absinthe?
What is it?
The drink.
I don't know it.
Never had absinthe. No, I must admit, I've never had it either, but it's quite big.
Absinthe?
Yeah. Have you heard
Absinthe.
of it?
It really rings a bell. Isn't it not that stuff that you sniff?
I think it
That's
does
a
have
drug,
a
isn't
strong
it?
smell.
Oh, that's poppers.
That is a bit different.
Absinthe.
It's like, tastes like aniseed.
Oh, okay. It's ringing more bells now. Yes.
When I think of absinthe, I just think of the film Moulin Rouge. Have you watched Moulin Rouge?
I can't stand that film.
Why can't you stand
It's just so boring. It's just like singing and dancing, and I don't understand the storyline. I'm not very good with musicals.
We are just opposites, aren't we?
Why does that drink associate with Moulin Rouge?
Because they're all like bohemian artists in France in like the early 1900s. And that at the time, I think France banned absinthe in like 1915 because they said it was... because it's like 70%
It's so
alcoholic.
potent.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And they said it had like mind-altering effects. But for creatives, they were like, well, we need that because that's how we make our best work. But yeah, now apparently they're bringing it back in this country. And also, what is quite interesting is that it's making a comeback in non-alcoholic cocktails, right?
Because it's got the flavour.
Yeah, and that flavour, that aniseed taste, but apparently it's got something in it called wormwood, which is what makes it taste like
Wormwood?
aniseed. Yeah, which is a plant.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think.
Wow.
And that apparently improves digestion, which is now why people are now having non-alcoholic
Wow.
absinthe
This new generation,
cocktails.
you can't just have a cocktail. You've got to have a cocktail that's good for you.
I know, that is so true.
In other alcohol news, what have you got for me, Anna?
So the owner of Guinness is understood to have put limits on pubs and bars, how much they can buy, because it's basically running low because there's been this massive rush of sales in the run-up to Christmas.
Why is everyone drinking Guinness in the run-up to Christmas? What's going on?
So apparently there's a big spike in demand because of ginfluencers that have made it. Oh. I knew you were going to look at me like that.
They're those cheesy phrases. Ginfluencers.
I knew you were gonna have that reaction. Apparently that's been like making it really popular amongst women.
Oh, really?
Apparently so.
Do you like Guinness?
So I like a black velvet. Do you know
black
what
velvet?
Black velvet is?
Guinness and blackcurrant?
It is got blackcurrant liqueur in Guinness, but it also has equal measure with Guinness of champagne.
Oh, you are so extra. Champagne and Guinness and blackcurrant. It is a bit
extra.
That sounds vile.
Don't knock it till you tried it.
I'm not trying it.
We're going to have this over the festive period. I'm going to have to introduce you.
I cannot try that.
I'll be your ginfluencer.
Right, get out. There's no ginfluencers in this podcast. That's it for episode 3 of the podcast. Huge thanks to my guest, John McClure of Reverend and the Makers. Make sure you listen to his charity single, Late Night Phone Call, which is out now, and catch him and the rest of the band at Rock and Roll Circus next summer in Sheffield. You've been listening to the Leona Graham Podcast with me, Leona Graham, produced by Emily Moulton and brought to you by Whitney Wildone. See you next time.
The Leona Graham Podcast.
Brought to you with Honda Motorcycles. Ride it, buy it, win it.